Welcome to Channel 18 News. I'm Jim Rogers. Kevin Dion Harrison, age 47, of Silver Springs, was arrested Wednesday morning by Special Crimes Unit Detective Sergeant Tony Krause on 3 charges. A caller who asked to remain anonymous informed Sergeant Krause of suspicious activity taking place at an East Beckham Street residence. During an investigation of the property, Sergeant Krause noticed from the street that marijuana plants were being grown outside the residence in plain view, allowing for a probable cause search of the house to be conducted. As he conducted that search, he found not only marijuana growing outside the house, but also marijuana growing inside the house. The marijuana growing inside the house was found in a water heater closet. Sergeant Krause also located cocaine above a kitchen cabinet, as well as a gun that was stolen during a previous burglary in Hopkins County. Harrison was then taken into custody and transported to Hopkins County Jail, where he now sits on a $27,000 bond, $15,000 for a third-degree felony possession of controlled substance less than 1 gram in a drug-free zone, $10,000 for possession of marijuana less than 2 ounces in a drug-free zone, and $2,000 for a state jail felony theft of a firearm. Dr. Darren Jolly was named lone finalist for the position of Superintendent of North Hopkins Schools during a board meeting this week, according to a member of the North Hopkins School staff. Jolly was named to replace Donna Gregory. However, Jolly recently resigned under duress as superintendent of Kennedy Independent School District after admitting blame in an effort to shield a student or students from being found to use a prohibited substance. In a statement by Kennedy ISD Board of Trustees, read by Edward Munson and recorded in the Karnes County newspaper and their website, the website presence for the Beeville Publishing Company, quote, "Unfortunately, Dr. Jolly made some mistakes that have eroded trust in him to continue as a leader of the district. Specifically, Dr. Jolly failed to follow school safety procedures for reporting the circumstances surrounding students' use of prohibited substance in a timely manner with intent of shielding at least one student from disciplinary action. He also did not accurately and truthfully disclose his knowledge of this incident when initially questioned about it by the board and a specific special investigator. Dr. Jolly has owned up to his mistake and error in judgment and offered his resignation. The board decided to accept his resignation because it believes that it is in the best interest of the district to do so," end quote. The investigation into Jolly's actions came when parents of Kennedy students expressed concern over the way school district officials responded to the incident where students were found on campus intoxicated, either under the influence of drugs or alcohol or a combination of the two, according to Karnes County News. According to the article, the sheriff in Karnes County said his office had received several calls from parents worried that the school district officials may have looked the other way in the case. A call placed to North Hopkins School Board President Alan Jocelyn found him awaiting results of a family member surgery. He plans to comment further to KSST News regarding the choice of Jolly. Alan did say the board is aware of the situation in Kennedy. He said, quote, "We looked into it," close quote. Jocelyn says Jolly brings many essential aspects in many different areas that will contribute to the school district at North Hopkins. KSST will continue to follow this story. Work on Bill Bradford Road should increase speed now that the work on a new sewer line behind Chili's, Whataburger, McDonald's, and one half of the apartments on Duckworth Street has been completed. The new sewer line will open new properties for development, which will in turn increase tax revenues for the city, according to City Manager Mark Maxwell.
Actually, the sewer line is completely installed. We're just cleaning up now. We've got some concrete work to do, and we've got to rebuild the enclosure for the trash bins at McDonald's, but the sewer line itself is complete.
This is going to open up some properties for development.
All of the stuff all of the property that's east of Chili's and south of Chili's has had a sewer issue. Chili's and Domino's and Taco Bell feed a sewer line on Broadway that only goes to Duckworth and then it turns east. goes down to Mockingbird and ties into the Mockingbird line, which is at capacity. It can't take any more. So any new development there, can't be done. And then McDonald's and Whataburger and Panda Express and the Brittany Square Apartments that are on Duckworth, they all fed a little line between them that also tied into Mockingbird and was, still at capacity. So there was really no way around the problem without installing a new sewer line somewhere, and that's been the rub on those properties for some time. Is no one has wanted to be the one to install it, and so in our last capital improvements program that we started 4 years ago, the council included a project on there that would take Chili's, Domino's, and Taco Bell off of Duckworth, that eventually leads to Mockingbird, and tie it into a sewer line that's further south on Broadway. There is a line that comes all the way up to Pilgrim's Bank, and you would think, well, what would tie the two lines in? The problem is the line that we would tie into is higher, and it's got to go downhill. So the project was to deepen that line and take those three restaurants off, thereby freeing up some development. And but the problem, and they budgeted $111,000 for it. It came in at $230,000. Not going to happen. The council declined all bids, rejected all bids, and the project was never done. Property continued to sit. We continued to think, well, someday it's going to be worth enough for somebody, but to make the improvements, and still may have been at some point, I don't know. But in the meantime, our engineers figured out Plan B, which actually looked better than Plan A, and there was a line that extends from a major trunk line. It extends up to Furs, through the parking lot, essentially, of that shopping center. And the only thing on it was Furs. And so we got to looking, and we thought, we could take, instead of taking Chili's, Domino's, and Taco Bell off of Mockingbird, what if we took McDonald's, Whataburger, Panda Express, and half of the Brittany Square Apartments off of Mockingbird and replace that line that goes up between all of them and tie it into this line here at Furs. And we took some great shots that looked doable, and so that project is done. It's all been replaced, and so now we've alleviated some burden off of Mockingbird, and any new development that occurs can also go on this new line. So we won't replace any of that burden that we've alleviated. So it's really a win all the way around for all the parties, and we did the whole thing for about $130,000. It's a whole lot less than $230,000, so it's a win.
Usually the developer does some of this work and expends this money, but in truth, with the city doing it, with opening up all these other spaces, you're actually adding some tax revenue eventually to this.
Yeah, we expect to see development there fairly quickly now that this issue is out of the way. There are still other issues there. They've got some overhead power lines that they're going to have to deal with and whatnot. But this appeared to be the big one that was an obstacle, and now that it's removed, I expect to see some development. So yeah, we'll see returns in property tax values. We'll see it in sales tax and water sales as well.
Obviously, Starbucks, the location where they are considering to place a unit, that's a part. That's going to be
it will. And in that case, clear up there on Broadway, they'll probably tie into the Broadway line, which does turn down Duckworth and eventually onto the Mockingbird line. And that'll be just fine.
With this completion, you're moving then your crew from that project to,
Yeah, so that crew that's been working on this all along will now move over to the Bill Bradford project, and the production there will double. We'll see a lot more being done.
what has been done so far with Bradford?
So we've replaced water and sewer on past the second Park Circle. We've continued on with water all the way down to Elm. Now we're about to double back to Park Circle and continue with sewer back to Elm, and then we'll turn the corner and we'll replace water and sewer clear on up to the service road. And so now things will really start picking up on that project.
Do you perceive with, moving on forward, will there be a time when that street basically is totally cut off through traffic, or?
No, we're going to continue our work in segments. And right now, this segment, you just better find a way around it. And the segment will move, and then we'll come back, and street work will begin. And there's a chance we're actually going to contract out for the street construction itself, whether it be asphalt or concrete. We've been getting some really good concrete bids, and so we've gone out to bid on it in hopes that continues. And we'll see.
Completion date for Bill Bradford?
Yeah, Mother Nature, who knows? I've been saying a year. I'm giving myself plenty of room. But I just got news this morning from the National Weather Service that they're expecting La Nina to develop this summer and last through the winter, which means drought. It's bad for agriculture, great for construction.
What else is on the agenda for the city?
Oh, gee, that's such an open-ended question, Jimmy. But I can tell you, take a drive by the new pavilion in the next couple of days. You'll notice something different about it when you drive by.
Tables?
Grass. Yeah, there's tables there now. There's I think 30 tables, 28 tables, 30 tables, something like that. And there's another 17 coming. But we've been putting in some irrigation, and the sod will go down. It'll start this afternoon and continue through Saturday. It'll have a much different look.
The mayor planted a tree there not too long ago. Are we looking at some other trees going in around the pavilion, or?
No, we want to leave some open grass play area around that pavilion. I do anticipate that we will plant more trees in the park, as we've lost a number of trees over the years, but not in that particular area. And there's also a potential somewhere north and east of the pavilion for a splash pad one day. And we don't want to put trees in the way of that either.
Dylan Joyner, a junior at Silver Springs High School, placed third at the National Business and Professionals of America competition in Boston, Massachusetts. KSST News caught up with Joyner during his BPA class taught by Tracy Stewart at Silver Springs High School Thursday morning.
I got the opportunity to go to Boston to represent Sulphur Springs BPA, our local chapter, for the National Leadership Conference that was going on there.
All right. And you were solo, right? You were the one going to national, right?
Yes, sir. We did have one other guy who was a runner-up. I believe that was Ch.18, but he just didn't get the opportunity this time around.
Okay. What is your area of expertise that you do?
I do two. I do presentation management and economic research, but the one that I did attend nationals with would be the economic research.
Oh, okay. Tell us what goes into that, and how do you make a presentation? Is that how that works?
The way it works, it's kind of a dynamic challenge. Every year the topic changes, and this year the topic was focusing on the longevity of the Social Security program. And I created a document. It was about 7 pages long once I had it all said and done. And then I summarized that document, and I did create a presentation in front of a panel of judges, and then that was what was focused on for the competition.
All right. So this, how long did it take to do all that work and research and everything?
It took me about 3 months. I got the information in August, and then around December, I thought I was ready to compete.
Okay, and you had to go through several levels, right? I guess we have a district, or how does that work?
It does go through the regional level, which would be in Frisco this year, and then the state level, which would have been in Corpus Christi, and then, of course, the national level in Boston.
All right. Did you have time for fun while you were there?
Yes, I had the opportunity to kind of experience Boston and wander around it. It's a very beautiful city. We didn't really do any of the official tours. We kind of chose to look around and see the sights on our own.
Very good. What class are you in? You senior, junior?
Oh, I'm a junior, yes, sir.
A junior. How long have you been in BPA?
I've been in BPA since my freshman year.
Okay, so you would highly recommend it, I guess, to any student
Yes, sir.
interested.
Absolutely. It's a great opportunity.
Now, you are one of the leadership. I believe you are an elected officer for BPA?
Yes, sir. I am the vice president of our local chapter.
All right. What types of things have you had an opportunity to do other than this research and your other project you have?
We also, through our local chapter, we do an Adopt a Highway cleanup. We have a stretch of highway out on 19 that we clean up twice a year through our local chapter, and we do pay for that through our local chapter. And also, BPA as an organization supports a lot of funds towards the Special Olympics and providing an opportunity during the individual conferences for the Special Olympics and to support that organization.
Does this prepare you for what you hope to do when you get out of high school? Are you looking at a business area?
Yes, sir, I am. I'm looking to get degrees in business and kind of focus on that in college, and BPA provides a great opportunity to kind of get into that mindset and to understand the dynamics of that workplace.
Very good.
One of the new owners of Summit Hospice is Dr. Randy Stewart. He and his partners purchased an existing company, rebranded it, and is serving Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County, headquartered out of the Paris headquarters of Summit Hospice.
We purchased what was Mays Hospice and currently run it at Summit Hospice. We have 3 boarded physicians who are hospice and palliative care boarded, and then one other business owner. Like I said, it was a dream that all of us had. We've been doing hospice now for 25 years, have almost 75 years between the 3 of us. And so we've finally fulfilled that dream, hopefully not at the end of our career, but at the middle of our career.
Well, I know that many people who live in our area and listen to KSST are familiar with hospice and what hospice does, but there's some who do not, and just sort of tell us a bit about and why you came into this line of work.
Okay. Well, there are a lot of, I think, myths and misconceptions of hospice, but hospice is care provided to patients in the last 6 months of life. When I first started in hospice in the 90s, it was primarily cancer diagnosis, but that's really expanded now. Less than half of our patients have cancer, and many of them have lung disease, heart disease, neurologic disease, of course dementia, which is a growing problem. So we provide care. Hospice is not a place. It's a type of care that really cares for the whole patient. It's spiritual, emotional, and physical, which is unlike probably traditional medicine, and that's what really drew me to hospice in the beginning. Was being able to take care of the whole patient. And most of our patients are taken care of in their homes or in their nursing homes. They're not in hospitals, but we take care of them where they want to be. And that's the great thing about hospice. Obviously, terminal illness is not something we can always pinpoint. And a lot of people always ask me, well, how do you know when we're ready for hospice? Well, that's what hopefully an expert in hospice can help decide. But we still are wrong some of the times. And I tell some of my patients that we have about a 5% graduation rate. So some of our patients we sign out because they do much better than we would expect. And some of that is just because of the care that they get in hospice. And so there's no downside if you have a illness that can't be cured to being in hospice if you qualify. And there are a lot of benefits.
I think that about 25 years ago, I didn't hear so much about hospice. It is something now that is commonly heard and commonly applied, or a service that's used. How did people take care of things before that?
Not very well, because I trained, in the early 80s at Baylor in Dallas.
never even heard the word hospice mentioned in 84 to 87 when I was a resident there. And that was, I mean, obviously at a big center in a big city. But I think we did a very poor job. I mean, I was part of that, doing a poor job of taking care of those patients. So, and the hospice movement, surprisingly, is relatively new. I mean, it started in England in the 60s. There was a nurse who then became a social worker, who then became a physician, and that started St. Christopher's Hospice in the 67, and the first hospice in the U.S. was in 1974. Interestingly, the first inpatient unit west of the Mississippi was in Texas, in Amarillo, in 1985. So Texas has been kind of on the cutting edge of hospice, but it's a relatively new movement, I would say, and that's one reason why a lot of people don't know much about it.
Well, just in brief, I would ask you, when do you know that when does a family or a physician know that hospice needs to be called?
Well, it's difficult, you know, as a boarded hospice physician, and we have literature that would kind of help us guide. But one of the buzzwords I think has been real helpful in the last few years is we tell our physicians who don't do hospice all the time to ask the what if question or the surprise question. And the surprise question is, would I be surprised if this patient died in the next 6 months of their medical problems? And if the answer is yes, it's probably time to discuss with the family advanced care planning, end-of-life issues, and if they're amenable to considering hospice, getting hospice at least to evaluate the patient and see whether the hospice experts also feel like the patient is in the terminal phases of their illness.
So if a person were to ask you, what is hospice, and a description of it?
Well, I'd say I think the best definition is it's a team approach to the care of the whole patient. So we have physicians, nurses, we have aides, we have social workers, we have clergy, and we address not only the physical needs of the patient, where they want to be, and usually that's in their home, but also the spiritual and emotional issues that patients face when they're looking at a terminal illness. And I think having done hospice 25 years, I mean, the one reoccurring thing I have families and patients tell me, because most people are afraid of hospice, it has sort of we call it the H word, it's kind of a bad connotation. They said, I wish I would have known what it was before. I got here too late. And, you know, the benefit for Medicare is 6 months, but the average in the United States is most people are in a hospice program about 2 months. So I think it's underutilized. And again, I think it's misconceptions. People have fears about hospice. But you know, I've had family members in hospice, and certainly, you know, I think our patients really wish they'd gotten to us sooner. And, you know, I would say that hospice is about living. And that's what we tell people, that we can control symptoms and manage spiritual and emotional issues that allow you to live life fuller with the time you have left. And most patients, I think, don't realize that till they actually get in the program.
I know you mentioned Medicaid, Medicare, 6 months, maybe that pays for hospice. Mm-hmm. How long should a person, or will a person, qualify for hospice?
Well, as long as the way the Medicare benefit works now is Medicare, if you qualify, and there are certain things that we look at that are published, whether they qualify, pays 100% if you're a Medicare patient of all the costs associated with a terminal illness. Every 90 to 60 days, we are required to recertify a patient. So we have to have objective findings that the patient still meets the terminal diagnosis. If at any point that doesn't happen, then we sign those patients out. They don't lose benefits, so those benefits can be used at a later time.
I see.
And I would say the majority of patients that I sign out are patients that have, you know, heart and lung, sometimes neurologic disease, where the decline is certainly not set in stone, and it's different for every patient.
Tell me about Summit Hospice.
Well, Summit, like I said, it was a dream of the 3 physician owners that we owned our own hospice and could make the day-to-day decisions and do what we thought was best for the patient. We didn't want to be involved in a corporate hospice ownership, and when the opportunity arose for us to be able to purchase a hospice here, and having ties to this area, having trained in Dallas, having moonlighted in East Texas, and having physicians that I knew that practice in Paris, and a new one coming to Sulphur Springs. We talked with them, and they said this is a perfect place. We need expert hospice care. And so that opportunity arose, and then we purchased the hospice and have, rebranded it, and all of us are excited about the opportunities that this area has for hospice care.
Now, it was formerly Mays.
Correct.
And that company is still in business doing another part of the work.
Right. They do home health in this area. They don't do hospice in Texas currently.
Well, we want to know about your other doctor owners.
Okay. The other two owners are Dr. Dan Jenkins, who's also boarded in hospice and palliative care from Amarillo, and Dr. Ron Rankin, who's boarded in hospice and palliative care. Ron does primarily long-term care in addition to his hospice duties. Dr. Jenkins and I have been business partners for years, and we teach, we're hospitalists, and we also have done hospice together. And then we have a business owner in North Dallas that's also helped and is involved in the funding of the hospice, not really the day-to-day management, but his main goal in being involved was really from the aspects of helping people and charitable, trying to give back to the community. He's actually an oil and gas businessman in Dallas, but this was kind of an opportunity for him to kind of give back, and so he gave us the opportunity, and we gave him the opportunity, I guess.
And the community here is going to benefit.
Yes.
How will someone find Summit Hospice?
Well, we have we're based right now, we have an office in Paris, Texas. The way hospice works is you can get licensed, and you serve a 60-mile radius from where your base location is. So you can Google Summit Hospice.
Okay.
We have a toll-free number. We'll be listing in the Paris directory. I can give you numbers for Paris, but our office in Paris, and we'll have a website up soon.
Okay. Well, it's something that is new in Sulphur Springs. I ran into you at the recent health fair held at the Rock that First Baptist Church hosted there.
Right.
And got in touch with your administration there, and eventually, when it was is it your week to come to our area?
Okay. Yes.
Well, Dr. Randy Stewart had a chance to come in on our morning show interview.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed being here.
Yeah, we appreciate you, and we'll be talking with you more through 2016.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing in a new business.
Here's Don with sports.
The Wildcats have just about completed 2 weeks of spring football. It culminates with a spring game on May 26th. I talked with Wildcats defensive coordinator Tristan Abram about spring football and his defensive goals for it.
Ending the second week of spring football has been great. The kids are still coming out fired up. It's great that we're able to keep them enthusiastic about what's going on. By no means has it seemed like anybody has felt like this is a job per se, to come out and have to do. and a lot of times, we're saying we're going to start at 350, and Coach Young and I look at each other and we're like, hey, I got all my guys, you have all your guys, and we look at our watch and it's 3:45, and we can start a little earlier. So the kids seem to be really excited about it, and that makes it easy for the coaches to continue to be excited about it, and make us thrilled to be able to go out and do the installation and the things that we're wanting to do to do the spring ball thing. So I'm really enjoying it, and it's really, I think, working out really well for our defense.
What kind of goals do you have for spring football? What would you like to see from the defense by the time you get to that spring game?
Well, as always, being a defensive guy, being a defensive coordinator, you want to make sure, number one, you're better at what you felt like you weren't very good at in the fall. And with that being said, what spring football allows us to do is it allows us to tackle in practice, something that we do not do in the fall. And I think that we have actually in a week gotten better at tackling. Just as crazy as it sounds, we've gotten better, and that's really exciting. We've always been in position, in my opinion, to be able to make plays, and there are times whenever we don't make a play because we didn't make the tackle. So that's really one of the big things for me. Also, defensively, we're kind of tweaking our scheme a little bit, so it's allowing us to kind of do something new with the kids, and they're enjoying it. They're picking up on it. They're really excited about it. I had a young man, D lineman, come talk to me the other day, and he said, "Coach, hey, what we're doing, this is what my favorite NFL team does, and he's asking questions. And then he came to me in the weight room yesterday. Hey, I saw this team do this out of this scheme. You think we can do that? Well, yeah. Hey, we're gonna get there. Just slow down a little bit. So it's really good from a defensive perspective because, again, we're able to work on tackling. We're able to work on those fundamental things that you can't work on in the process of the season for the simple fact of you're always having to get ready for somebody else, rather than focusing on fixing you, which is what, in my opinion, spring football is all about. And it's great. I love it. The defensive staff, we love it. I told those guys before we even started spring ball, during the season, whenever we're done practicing, we'll sit up here another hour and a half watching that day's practice video. And I told them before we started spring ball, guys, you don't have to stay up here. When we're done practicing, y'all go home, go be with your families. It's not that vital right now. Watch the practice video on your own. And nobody's taking me up on that offer yet. We sit here again, for an hour after practice just to watch the video because we're all so excited about the progression that we see and the things that are going on with the defense. And it's great. It's great to see, and it's really fun to be around.
Or are you finding some players that's awful? It's a young bunch, and
right.
So there may be some that you're not quite that familiar with. Maybe on all their stuff. So
right,
some good guys.
Yes, we are. We were young this past fall, and with that being said, from a football standpoint, we've matured some, and you can see that on the field. Some guys that this past fall. That we were really wanting a little bit more from, we're getting that and some right now, and that's awesome. It's awesome to see that, and they're seeing it, so their confidence is boosting, and it's great. And then we have a few younger guys as well that are able to. So a few freshmen that are working out with the older guys right now. That they may have been some question marks on. So at what level can this young man play? And we're starting to see that we have some freshman guys that are pretty decent as well. And that's really good to see because if this would be August, we don't see those things until we're into the season or into that second scrimmage, and then you possibly want to make a change or you want to try to work a guy in, opposed to we have these 4 weeks or this amount of days to see these kids working, and we see them now. It's great. I'm really excited about what we're doing. I told someone today that I thought that the best decision that we've made all year from a football standpoint was to do spring ball, and it's really paying off for us as a defensive staff for sure, and the kids are seeing their progression, which is great. I think it's going to lead us into the summer and come back in August, and we're going to be really, really excited about what happened.
You haven't had any changes on your defensive staff. You've pretty got everybody coming back.
Yes, sir. Everybody's coming back, which we introduced a new scheme last year with the staff that we have, and then again we're kind of staying with that scheme, but just a few tweaks here and there with it that our staff we felt like it's ours. We've built it. based off of talking to a few other schools, but we built it, and we're really confident in what we're doing. It's showing that it's pretty good. We're going against our offense every day. The mastermind of Matt Young, Jeremy Offit, Johnny McSheffrey, those guys, they do a great job, and to be able to go out against them and see that, hey, what we felt like we could come up with is holding up to what those guys, can throw at us. It's really exciting. So we're excited about what's going on the defensive side, and we're anxious to get through this phase and prayerfully no injuries. We hadn't had any injuries, and prayerfully we can keep it that way and move into August and keep the ball rolling there.
Very good.
Thanks for watching Channel 18 News. Have a great evening.